Okay.
Okay, you're Tina now, but that's fine, Susan. We're all good. You don't need to, no need to change.
Okay.
All right, let's get it underway then.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Good. And I got the recording message, so it is on. So good morning, everyone. This is a meeting of the Concord Middle School Building Committee. Today is Thursday, August 4th, approximately 7:37 a.m. And this meeting is being recorded. I will call roll. Alexa Anderson. You're muted, but I saw your mouth move.
Here.
Hi, Alexa. I'm going to call everyone. I don't know, Pat, you didn't do this, but I feel like we should know who's here. Just for the
Okay,
record.
go right ahead.
Yep. So Court Booth, is Court
Present.
with us? Oh, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Court. Heather Bout, not with us, is my understanding. She's also on vacation. Justin Cameron.
Good morning.
Hi, Justin. Your last bit of vacation before school starts up, I presume. At least, maybe not a vacation, just time off. Peter Fashalis.
Present.
Hi, Peter. Don Goriello, I'm here. John Harris.
Here.
Hi, John. Russ Hughes.
Here.
Good morning, Russ. Lori Hunter.
Here.
Good morning, Matt Johnson from Canada.
Yep,
Present. And off camera to conserve electricity, which I appreciate. Carrie LaFleur. Is Carrie with us today? No?
Carrie's on vacation.
Oh, okay. Good for her. Pat Nelson.
Here.
Chris Popoff.
Here.
Hi, Chris. Charlie Parker.
Here.
Good morning, Matt Root.
Present.
Hi, Matt. Bob Conry.
Here.
Good morning, Steve Staszewski.
Present.
Hi, Steve. And Gail Dowd.
Present.
Good morning. All right, everyone. I'm going to plow through the meeting minutes if anyone is not opposed to that. I've got a couple of comments and then I'm looking for anyone that might have edits as well. On the June 2nd, I just want to point out that Suresh Bhatia, I think I have that name right. Suresh is actually not on our committee. He's an observer from the finance committee. So I just want to point out on both sets of minutes, he should not be listed as a committee member. That's my only comment on the second. On the third, I had that same comment, as well as a couple typos. In the second page, the paragraph that starts with P. Martini, the is spelled wrong. On the next page, the paragraph that starts with L. Finnegan commented on the magnitude. Hold on. Yeah, magnitude is spelled wrong. I had to zoom in on that. And then the paragraph where it starts with Ian Parks noted that the best case scenario within is spelled wrong. So just a handful of typos that I picked up. I think that was all I had. Let me. Oh, and on the June 30th, Alexa Anderson is missing from the committee member list. I think you were there, Alexa. I don't think you've missed any meetings.
I haven't. That's weird.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yep. So Alexa was not listed on the June 30th. So those are my comments. Does anyone else have any? No? Okay. Any motions to approve with those edits? We could do both of them together.
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, moved as amended, I would suggest.
Yeah, move as amended. Yep. Thanks, Matt. Is that how you, Frank, you're okay with that?
Yes.
Excellent. Very good.
John?
Yes.
Just for clarity, I believe with Suresh, we have now 2 observers from FinCom. I believe Chris Reynolds also is an observer.
No, I believe that Suresh is replacing Chris. in that
Oh,
role.
thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Just wanted to understand that. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. I noticed Chris was still attending our meetings. I wasn't sure if they both were. I know you, Matt, you had actually in one of these meeting minutes, I think on the second, you introduced him as the new observer. So. But
Oh, I see Chris's hand. Perhaps I've misstated.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, we're both observers, Matt.
Okay, so you're double teaming.
We are.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I
Okay.
thought that was a new assignment and replacement.
Okay, very good. So nonetheless, he should not be listed as a committee member. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Alexa Anderson,
Sounds good.
Court Booth,
Aye.
Heather's not with us. Frank Cannon,
Yes.
Peter Fashalis,
Aye.
Dawn's a yes. Lori Hunter,
Yes.
thank you. Matt Johnson,
Aye.
Pat Nelson,
Aye.
Chris Popoff,
Aye.
Charlie Parker,
Aye.
Matt Root,
Aye.
and Steven Stashewski.
Aye.
Great, thanks, guys. Okay, correspondence. Alexa, in Heather's behalf, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't know if you have anything. I think we received one email during our meeting last week.
Yes, that was it. And I don't
That
think
was
it was mentioned in our meeting, so.
Correct.
But it's
My
fine.
recollection is it came through during, like, while we were meeting.
Agreed.
And also, I think we were putting together, I thought I saw something from Erin. I'm not sure if it made it into this, so we'll have to coordinate for the next time, having that communications be part of the packet. So
Dawn,
that's, yes. Hey, Court.
I believe we all received a packet from Erin Higgins yesterday of
Oh, she sent that to everyone.
yeah.
Thank you, Court.
correspondence to date, I believe. I don't know the
Perfect.
exact period, but it was to date. Thank you.
Perfect. I saw it come in and I thought it needed to be put in the packet, but it sounds like she sent it to everyone. So that's excellent. Thank you. I haven't had a chance to look through it, but I read all the emails, so. I think
Dawn,
that's
just
good.
point of clarity, we're going to
Sure.
download those like that and attach them to the agenda going forward under
Forward.
correspondence. That was all previous ones from prior to last week.
Okay,
We
so to
haven't had
date,
any.
that's everything. Yep.
Yep.
And then moving forward, it'll be part of the agenda. That's great.
Yep.
Okay,
Great,
very
thanks.
good. Thank you. Lori. Okay, and then one more thing before we get into the value management log. I was hoping we could move the communication and outreach. Is everyone muted, by the way? I'm hearing some feedback. If everyone who's not talking could please mute, I'd appreciate it. I'm hoping to move the communications update and outreach up so we can make sure we have time for that. Alexa, have you and Heather had a chance to communicate? Again, in her absence, I'm gonna see if there's anything you have. Heather had proposed a few different paths to communicate with the community.
Yep.
And
She and I have not formally met or talked or even texted, nothing. She's been
Yeah.
away mostly. She left, I think, 2 days after.
yeah, and it's worth noting, she sent Pat and I something she wanted us to read during the value management discussion. So I have that, but there was nothing related to communications.
No,
My feeling is if anyone feels strongly one way or another that we should or shouldn't do anything that Heather had suggested, which I think was to the scenarios were survey as previously done, community forum, just as a general outreach and receiving feedback, and then encouraging, any sort of email communication or, showing up to our meetings and communicating. Do I have that correct? I'm just going off of memory here.
totally. I think, we just don't have the time. And I think the other thing that we potentially proposed was reaching out to some groups that we had met with in the past, but I don't know that the schedule's going to permit that, but
Yep.
it's still on the table.
Okay. And the goal is to, do this sooner than later, ahead of our 60%, ahead of our 60% CD, which
I
comes
think
in
so.
end of September, early October.
And I
Again, I'm
think
going
the
off of memory.
goal of anything we do is more to solicit feedback rather than push out information. We'll continue to do our reports that Tom Lucy puts out that summarize our meeting. And that's kind of it.
It'll be important to tell people, for those who don't know where we are, in that forum as an example, to say, here's where we are, here's where the estimates came in, here's what our committee is doing, which is moving forward into CDs, but also parallel track, reviewing any value management items, and then soliciting feedback. So I think it's important for those that don't follow the process or
Yeah,
don't understand what's going on to kind of get a quick factual update. This is
a
just
summary of
where
where we are. Yeah.
Yep. All right, do any committee members feel strongly about any of those? And do we want to start thinking about what the next step is, which I assume is some sort of community forum outreach, right?
Dawn, I'll weigh in if I might.
Sure.
I think forum makes sense, becomes a two-way vehicle for informing and getting feedback. I would be very cautious about a survey because I think we need a mechanism to see that we had a broad base of participation. We have some constituents who pay a great deal of attention to this and a great many who really don't, as you and I know. So were we to do a survey, I hope this committee would be explicit and clear about what we're trying to learn, number one, and number two, that we utilize town resources, not a more narrow set of resources to reach everybody in town, should there be a survey. And I'm not advocating that we do a survey.
Thank you, Court.
Okay.
Anyone else? Steve, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
If we are going to be sending out any kind of notifications, are we going to be reviewing that as a committee, or we still the process that we described last week is that the communication that would be outreach to the community as a summary would be reviewed by yourself and sufficient, and does everybody in the committees feel that that's sufficient? Because I know that there was a comment on the last time, and I just had a comment myself on what you said. I think we should be clear in that we have already value engineered. We do have an accepted list of value engineering items, and because of the market conditions and because of the situation, we're engaging in a value engineering process. And so just that type of nuance is, I think, important that we capture.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. That's a good point. And as far as any communication outreach, the only thing Pat and I typically look at is the summary of the meeting, which is typically just, fairly straightforward. And here's what was discussed and here's where the committee's headed. So, to send that out for everyone's review, every single meeting, every single time feels,
Realistic.
yeah, that's, but any sort of communication out in the form of trying to solicit information, that would certainly warrant an entire committee's, review.
Okay.
And I think your point about the nuance and the fact that we've already been through this and that it's not, it's not necessarily any design changes that have affected the cost. It's the market and the economy and some of the factors. And a lot of them were summarized nicely in the meeting minutes as far as, what's gone up and to what degree. So we could use that as a cheat sheet if folks thought that was helpful.
Yeah, the only reason that I bring that up is I read all the emails and it's varied, and I think it's the middle of the road approach that we need to take. And we all, I think, walked away from last week's meeting with the middle of the road sort of understanding that that's what we're going to do. And I think should just be clearly communicated that that's what the committee's doing.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? So why don't we do this? Why don't we, Alexa, whenever Heather's back from vacation, hopefully she's not taking the entire month of August off, if she is good for her. But upon her return, she did send an email yesterday. So there, at some point she is connected.
Well, just in case.
What's that?
She sent it to me as well, just in case, for a backup. She got nervous.
Yeah, no, my point is, I think she's at some point connected while she's away.
Yes.
So maybe you and she can set up a time to discuss
You can set
community
up a
forum,
meeting.
what the topics of discussion would be, how it would be. I would assume it's going to be over Zoom or some sort of,
Yes.
virtual. We've had pretty good attendance at those.
Great.
And then propose a date or two. Maybe it's 2 dates. Maybe we do one during the day and maybe
Yeah.
we do one at night. We've heard a lot of feedback that, some people can't do nights and some people can't do days. So maybe there's
Yep.
we can appease both crowds with a daytime and a nighttime forum.
Totally. If Heather and I meet to talk about this topic, we have to do it in a public meeting. That's
Okay.
why we've been unable to do it, because she's been away
Okay,
with
I
her
see.
bad internet. So once she gets home, we can do it.
Okay, perfect. So maybe by the next meeting, and I don't know when that'll be, we'll talk about that at the end of this meeting, but we'll have some sort of path to communicating out and what that process will look like.
Cool.
And we'll take Court and Steve's comments
Yep, I wrote those down.
as part of that. Awesome. All right. Anyone else before we move on from that? Okay, great. Well, let's go back to item 4 then, value management log review. So like I mentioned, Ian unfortunately can't be with us today, but Susan, AKA Tina, is filling those shoes. She's gonna just intro, and then Lorraine is going to run us through the list, because she and Ian collaborated and worked through that list together. So I think Susan was just gonna open that discussion up and get us started.
Thank you, Dawn. Hi, everybody. I am Sue McCann. You've seen me on our meetings, but I'm more in the background, flying solo today. So thank you for your support in helping with this endeavor. So the goal of this portion of our agenda today is to go through the recommended design related VM items that SMA has put forth. We've looked at them now at a couple of meetings, but today is our opportunity to do a little bit more of a deep dive and have a discussion. And I hope to get a vote on what items we do agree on today, so that it can help the design now and not have it be something that happens a little later in our progression to 60%. So one thing I would recommend that we table, because Ian is not here today, is any discussion about the construction schedule, because he's closer to that than I am and can be better versed to have a conversation about that. And we will be having more conversations, I'm sure, because this is going to be a long meeting. We may not get through everything. And there may even, we need to also look at some of the other items that won't be discussed today. So I will be Tina Donovan, Sue McCann, and Vanna White today, in that I will be putting the display up of the value management spreadsheet for us as a visual. And I'm going to ask Lorraine to help us go through and do that deep dive and have the conversations. Again, with a goal at the end of the meeting for us to make a vote to accept anything that we come to consensus on that we can take as VE items. So
Susan,
yes,
sorry, I have a couple of comments. One is that I think the goal today is to, on column N, the recommendation to discuss the accepted, the ones that that SMMA and our design professionals in collaboration with Hill are recommending that they be accepted. So there's an accepted value in column O for discussion. But I think we're trying to focus on those particular ones today in the interest of time, because I mean, we could spend literally all day talking through a lot of these and then follow up on another meeting to talk through some of the others and why they weren't, say, recommended for acceptance. So I think that's our goal today. I wanted to see if, is Pat here? Pat, did you want to comment on the format of this? There was something you were saying earlier.
Just very quickly, there was a request from one of our committee members to receive this in Excel format. And one of our committee members had also generously taken the time to convert the PDF into an Excel form and try to make it more readable for that committee member. I just want to caution the committee that we want to manage this document in such a way that there's only one true document floating around. So if people need the document in a different format for their own personal study of it, that's fine, but we don't want multiple documents floating around. That's it. And if we can get through the accepted values in a timely fashion, there's no reason why we can't look at some of the rejected pieces as well.
Good point, Pat. I think we wanted to get through the accepted and if we had time, so great point.
Yeah. So if we can be very efficient with our time, that would be great.
Yep, I see a couple of hands. Matt Johnson?
Yeah, so first thing is I saw the link to the new V log, but when I looked at it, I have to admit, I didn't look closely at it. The bottom line looked roughly, the same, and I couldn't tell what was new about this V log. The second thing is we're obviously looking at a spreadsheet right now. And so it feels like to me that we do have multiple copies of a document floating around. I mean, why can't we share this spreadsheet that is the truth here, so that it would be easy to sort and add up and, categorize and so on for our own study purposes. We're left with the PDF.
So as I said, Matt, I see no reason why people cannot have the Excel one. Each week we are going to go through this, and there's going to be changes that are made that our professionals are going to make to the one true document. And then if people want that in an Excel spreadsheet so that they can look at it themselves, fine. Well, it's not a privacy issue. It's more of a keeping a one true document, so we don't have a bunch of different documents out there. It's more of a sharing kind of thing.
And just for Hill's reference, they're the owners of this. To Matt's point about not knowing what had changed, maybe it's helpful when their updates sent for that piece to be either highlighted or somehow acknowledged so that we don't have to go completely through the list to see minor changes.
Yeah, you could have a log tab, or you could have a tab that would have the previous version. Lots of ways to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Good feedback, Matt. Thank you. Court?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Pat, of course. We don't want multiple or rogue copies going around, but I would also add, I don't think that's been a problem. I am one who has a difficult time using the PDF in a meaningful way for me to understand things. A second point, Dawn, I'm more in line with your recommendation for process today, because I think if we are pressed to vote today, we have to revisit our vote of 2 weeks ago that expressly said that the leadership and the rest of the committee wanted us to wait until the 60%, that value engineering would be in readiness for the work necessary when we were more informed at the 60% level, that we wouldn't be tackling it in pieces along the way. Was that, in fact, everybody's understanding of that most recent?
That's what the minutes say.
Yep. And that's my understanding too. Thank you for pointing that out. I was going to let Susan know that was my understanding as well, that I think this is a parallel process to continuing forward on the CD path, and that our final decisions about what will actually be accepted come into play at the 60% is my understanding. That doesn't mean we couldn't, like, if there's some things, out there that we needed to vote on because the committee felt strongly on it, that's a different topic, meaning, like, as an example, if something weren't to be touched, or we were to say, we definitely want to, everyone's in agreement that this definitely wants to happen, whether 60% comes in high or low, like that. So I could see a scenario that could play out like that, but otherwise, the idea is that this gets, this is for discussion to get us through to September, with an understanding that if we still are high, we may have to take some of these. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for pointing that out. Anything else before we dive right in?
Charlie has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Charlie. You know what's crazy, Charlie? I saw you pop to the front. Your hand is the same color as your wall color in my camera, so I can't actually see your virtual hand. Apologies. Go ahead.
You're muted, Charlie.
Charlie, we can't hear you.
You're still muted, Charlie.
My understanding of the exercise is that we're going to, I think you clarified this, Dawn, that we're going to review the items that were accepted and determine whether we agree with those. I think is that correct?
Yeah, SMMA is saying these are things that we feel can be done in a manner that don't majorly affect the project as they see it, and is the committee in agreement? And
Okay.
you know,
Good.
if we get to discussion and everyone agrees that this is all things we'd take, whether, you know, we're in a budget crunch or not, or that we feel are the right things to do, then we as a committee can determine that.
So it would also seem, and I think you referenced this briefly, that we would also decide whether we agree with the items that are rejected by SMMA. I think they're on the list, so I think those also will probably deserve some discussion.
Absolutely, Charlie. Absolutely. It's just, we've got to get through this.
Okay, good. Well, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, but we got to start somewhere. So starting with the accepted items is the most efficient way to do this.
Yeah, I understand that. I said that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. So I think Lorraine was gonna item by item walk us through. Are we ready to begin?
I am ready.
Excellent. Thanks, Lorraine.
Sure. I just want to acknowledge we do have a pretty large part of our team on today. So Mike Dowhans, our landscape architect, Sarah Long, our interior designer, Martine Dion, our sustainable director, Charles Gibson, our mechanical engineer, William Smirszewski from Ewing Cole, our architect, and Matt Rice also. So brought everybody to
Welcome.
the table in case there were questions.
Great.
So-
Thank you, Lorraine. That's quite the team you have with us. So
Sure.
appreciate everyone's time.
So starting right at the top, and just I'll answer Matt Johnson's question first. The only things that changed were we got the real numbers on reducing the size of the gym and reducing the size of the auditorium from the estimators. But I see your point, and we will take that path forward and make sure it's clear as we move forward. So the first one is a very easy one because we had reduced the number of outdoor classrooms from 4 to 3. The estimators didn't catch it, and neither did we in the DD reconciliation. So this is sort of a done deal. It's already in there. You know, when they pick up the 60%, they would have saw that. So this is inherently just something that is sort of a math correction. I do see Chris Popoff just put his hand up on that.
Yeah, just real quick, Lorraine, I take it because we don't have items 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B, those are still, as it were, works in progress. We're still looking at soils, is that right?
So no, okay, so let me back up then. So where there are numbers missing is from the previous version of the log when we were at SD. I don't know if you remember when we went through the estimate meeting at the building committee, we had talked about the fact that we are actually able to reuse the soils. So the DD estimate now has within it the costs not to export all that soil and not to import all that soil. So the estimate did see those savings. So they are no longer a VE opportunity. It's part of the project. We're reusing existing soils. We're not importing, we're exporting a tiny little bit, but that has been already accounted for in the estimate.
Right, so we don't anticipate any surprises that are going to change those numbers.
No, sorry.
So to be clear, what used to read 50%, which we took, now reads 100%.
I'd have to open the other log. What you're saying, Charlie, was, you know, where we said we were keeping 50% of the soils on site. We are now keeping all but a fraction of the soil, just a little bit of the forest mat. But that has been accounted for and is in the numbers you saw in the DD estimate.
Right. So we take the full savings and it already appears.
Correct. Okay. So the first one is sort of a layup.
One more, Lorraine. I see.
Sorry,
I see Charlie.
Charlie, I can't see your hand either with the yellow wall. Sorry.
Yeah, right. I only know because he moved on my screen.
Okay,
And just a reminder to raise your hand. I appreciate you doing it, Charlie.
Okay, I just have a quick one. This does not have to be discussed now, but I just want to have it parked somewhere in the log here.
Okay.
Number 14, number 16, and number 25 also were dropped from the log. And we ought to just be sure we understand why and what the disposition was on the remaining amounts for each of those items. There were wood look ceiling, wood paneling in the media center, and the acoustic screen. So we don't have to discuss those now. I just want to be sure that we come back to it though.
I just
Were
want to
those
get the log
taken,
open.
Lorraine?
They were taken. So
That's
if
why they
something-
don't, so just so everyone hold on.
Yeah.
Lorraine, maybe you can explain how a VM log works.
So at
Thanks.
SD, when you acknowledged that you wanted to make those reductions for 14, 16, and 18, when you told us at the end of SD, we made those changes as we started moving into DD. So those reductions are already now part of the DD documents, and therefore the estimate that you received has accounted for those reductions. So anything that you accepted at SD has now been, as a removal of scope or a change of scope, was removed or changed as part of the DD process, and therefore has been accounted for in the estimating process. So we are not going to review them again because they're already done. They've already been taken out. There's not an opportunity to go back and do the same thing again.
Well, it was only a partial that was taken though. So I
Well, we
think,
took out what was accepted in the VE log. So I understand what you're saying.
what I'm saying is that this is a new round of VE and we've got another 230,000 on wood look ceiling sitting out there that we could take if we wanted to. Another 221,000 on the acoustic screen that we could take if we wanted to. And I don't recall discussing those items, but I think we should come back to that later.
Okay. All right, Sue, please, Ms. Vanna White, can you scroll down to number 17, please? So 17 is the interior light shelves. We talked about this at SD. There were two options. One was to reduce it and one was to remove it entirely. We opted for removing it entirely. As we've advanced the design development model, we continue to look at daylighting, positioning of windows, glare, and we feel strongly that, you know, we can remove that interior light shelf. We're still maintaining the exterior fins that will provide solar shading, but we feel strongly that we can remove the interior light shelf without any detriment to the classroom. So we will keep going down to item 30. And I do have a PowerPoint with images, so if we need to jump to something, I can. So item 30 is the south side of the building. We have a retaining wall and guardrail that connects the outside dining commons down to the lower level. As you all know, the site is tiered and we have a 3-story classroom wing. The second story of the classroom wing aligns with the primary entrance wing. So we made a connection so that when the students come out after lunch, if they come out for recess, they could stay outside, they could have a classroom. It's really thought of as an outdoor learning environment, but it makes the connection down to that lower level. So it is a significant scope of work. There's a lot of material in it, and that was accepted. So in essence, when you're finished in the cafeteria, if you're going back to your classroom, you go back through the interior to the building. So it takes away the option to connect the exterior of the main level to the exterior of the lower level outside the building without going back in through the building to the front, if that makes sense. I'm happy to share a rendering if people want to see what that looks like.
So if I could just ask if Justin has any thoughts, or if this is, wants to just comment, or Lori just comment that this is acceptable and will work.
Yeah, I'll hop in first, I guess, if that's okay. We did talk with SMMA and we've seen the drawings, which probably Lorraine should show you so you can see. It is just a matter of convenience. And so we're willing to give that up and go through the internal portion of the building for people to access outside. So we're okay with it.
Okay, just want to make.
Susan, sorry, Susan, if you might for a minute, can you stop presenting so that I can share my screen? Thank you. And I do see some other hands up while we're, okay. So I'm hoping everyone can see my screen.
We can.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is the dining commons. Where's my, let me go into full, sorry. This is the dining commons, this is the outdoor amphitheater, and this is the ramp down to join to this lower level area. So we would be taking out all of this right here and these concrete steps. So this would remain up high, this would remain down low, but we would take out that connection.
It seems too bad, but it also, if it will work for the flow of the school and the educators are okay with it, thank you.
You do have some questions, Dawn.
Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, I'd just echo Pat's. It seems too bad. I think this is an elegant feature of the landscape that it's like a money shot when you look at the school from this side and you experience, you know, going from the classroom to the outside eating area, amphitheater portion of this, where a presentation could be done for the students. It's too bad. I also think that this goes hand in hand with another one, number 33, the wood bridge. And I've been studying where the wood bridge is, and it's right underneath the connector, you know, right up. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's in the red.
It's right here.
Yeah, right where that tree is. So
Yep. Yeah,
kind of go
on the render.
have the stairs, then I understand you're not going to have the bridge. So this is a big number. You add those two together, you're over you're in $430,000. So it's, I don't know. It's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
It's a big decision with a big consequence. I'll let everyone else comment.
Thank you, Steve. Alexa?
So just so I'm clear, the grassy area remains, but there's
Sorry.
no like point of egress for these kids out on this lawn, like to the amphitheater.
Well, you could walk on the grass. so you could-
Okay,
But
but
this
then
wall,
it's sort of like,
here would continue,
mhm,
and then that ramp would go away completely. So this wall here becomes the retaining wall, and this retaining wall disappears.
right. So then my question too is like, I guess from a safety standpoint, are there multiple, I just don't know, like how, I'm thinking of like kids trapped in the cafeteria. Are there enough other ways for them to get out?
Yeah, they can get out behind the building here, plus there's egress. So this grade drops off over here.
Okay, so there's, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Peter.
Was that everything, Alexa? Yeah. Okay, Peter, for Shayla's?
Yeah, again, my question is on the safety side of things too. If that is gone, that looks like a pretty steep drop off. Now, what kind of is there a wall that is a certain height? I could see just kids jumping over that and getting hurt. What's the plan?
Even if this stayed, it would be at guardrail height, Peter, because we need guardrail height regardless. So that would remain at guardrail height, which is 42 inches. As we get into the detail of it, we can discuss if it wants to be 48, which some communities prefer, or it could be 42-inch wall with a rail on top to get to 48. But even if this stays, that wall will form a guardrail portion of it.
And what's the difference in the height if it was to be there at the highest point to the lower level of it?
What
Versus,
is this height? Right
yeah,
here?
exactly.
Mike, I see you're on. Do you happen to know that elevation?
Down here.
It's like about a story.
I'm pulling it up right now. I'm
14?
pulling it up right now, Lorraine. The minute I anticipated that question.
I think it's
But
like 12.
isn't it the
to
same
14.
whether
It's
the
probably-
ramp is there or not?
Hold on,
Yeah,
Matt.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Matt.
just want to clarify that that's not a ramp. So I know that's these are just
It's a
words.
walkway.
It's
Sorry.
a walkway, right? It's a
Slope-
walkway.
But it's a
it
sloped
doesn't.
walkway, Mike.
Yes, it's a sloped walkway. Exactly.
So you and I understand the nuance, just so you know.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
everybody will.
It's
1 in 20
not 1 in
versus 1 in
12.
12. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was more for Dawn than anything else.
Oh, Dawn knows.
Yes, I
So
know.
so the retaining wall is required in any
Well.
case. So as I mentioned, this is the retaining wall, and then it transitions to out here. If this sloped walkway disappears, then this retaining wall needs to continue to this retaining wall back here.
The retaining wall, right where you're pointing right now, Lorraine, that corner right there.
Yep.
Is about 15 feet. That's
15 feet.
that's the
Highest point.
highest
Yep.
point. And then from there it goes back to.
And that
10.
includes the guardrail portion of it.
Correct.
Okay, so at the school, the wall where the school ends, it's going to be significantly higher.
Yes, this is probably 20 feet, Peter.
Yeah, okay.
And that's going to happen regardless of whether this sloped walkway is here or not.
Well,
That's
it's
how we're
not,
transitioning the grades.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Just as a reminder, it's because all of those main spaces are at the main floor, which is the second floor, right? And then the grade drops off and the classroom bar has a level that's lower,
Yeah, it's 14.
which
feet
does
long.
not exist. Yeah, and I was guessing 14 because that's our floor to floor.
I saw Chris put his hand up.
Yep, Chris and Steve, would you mind taking your hand down just so I don't think you have a follow-up question? Yep, it's not a problem. I want to acknowledge you if you have a new question is all. Steve, it's not Steve, Chris Popoff.
Yeah, just for a follow up on Lorraine and Peter's comment about the guards going around that and the height of the wall. I suspect down the road, if the guards, even at Lorraine's point, at 48 inches don't work as intended, changes can be made. The school would monitor that and say, is this a challenge we have to change? But initially, you're looking at guardrail that should do the job. But I appreciate Peter's point that kids are going to climb. Something that the school have to deal with.
Chris,
Okay.
anything else on this topic? Lorraine, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yep. So I'm going to give it back to Sue, and I am prepared for the next one. So the next item, oh, I should have just stayed with it, but we can go back to it in a second, Sue. So the next item is the form-facing panels for a smooth finish. So basically what we had in the project at the very front of the building, you remember as you dive down under the bridge, we have concrete walls that had a form liner on them. And the form liner creates, reveals in the concrete. It is a little bit more costly than just using wood to have a sort of a wood look. We would propose smooth wood. And then use the panels itself then to create the reveals. It's a small cost change, but it is a cost change because the form liner product, you can only use it one time. So it's not like a form for concrete where you can reuse the form lots of times. Once you've placed the concrete against the form liner and you remove the form, that piece of form liner cannot be used again. So the cost is truly the cost of the form liner. And Sue, if you want to let me share, I can show everyone what I'm talking about. And go back here.
So just for clarity, just so everyone knows, she's basically talking about what that finished concrete wall will look like.
Right here. So it's this wall and this wall on this side as you dive down under the bridge. So what you might often see is you might see walls on the highway that are just large concrete panels, or you might see them that look like fake stone. We weren't going to do fake stone, don't worry. It was just a linear pattern. It helps break up the size and scale of the wall. So it's not just something nice to have. It does help from a scale perspective, especially as you're a middle school child and you're walking along these walls. They can feel quite intense. So in lieu of the form liner, we would just recommend a smooth plywood finish so that we're getting a better finish to look at. And, it is the front of the building. You want to make sure that we're getting a good quality placement and a good quality product at the end of the day, because we're working with concrete. And I think anyone who works with concrete understands that it's not a perfect science, and sometimes it comes out lovely and sometimes it doesn't. But if we use a smooth board or a form liner, we have a lot more control. Any questions on that one? It's a small cost. Okay. Sue, back to you. All right. And so our next accept
Sorry, Lorraine, do you have an image? I hate to ask at this time, but do you have what it was going to look like? What the form liner was going to be that we're giving up if we were to accept that?
I don't have a close-up. Let me just see if I do. Yes, I do. Okay, sorry, Sue.
Oh, I don't see it.
Okay, it's right. Okay, right here, Steve. It was sort of using that rivery effect again. So it was sort of a water, you know, you might see it sometimes in a horizontal feature. It looks very water-like. So we were using it in a vertical feature right here. And then this looks like the horizontal on this side. So it's, again, just to create a little bit of relief and diversity. So you're not looking at that flat wall, which is what you will get with the smooth panel. But okay.
Corbusier, huh?
Well, you know, it is concrete, so it can be molded, and sometimes it's really nice to do that. And it is an inexpensive way to do it. When you look at it, it's a $50,000 item, but it does help, you know, break up the scale. All right, Sue, back to you. All right, the next item was the site wood bridge. So as Steve mentioned, the site wood bridge is at the back of the site, was connected with the walkway in the back. So when you came down that sloped walkway, as Mike will correct me, we made an immediate connection over to the lower level classroom and outdoor learning. So Sue, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. And I might just pull up the log, Sue, after this, so you don't have to keep doing that.
Right, what's she asking?
All right, so
Can you
here's the dining commons, here's the sloped walkway, and here is where that wood bridge, because again, we're above grade, so we're spanning over the grade here to connect. If the wood bridge goes away and the walkway stays, you'll go underneath the bridge crossing until you hit back at grade and can come back around. So it was a feature to make that crossing, and you're elevated when you do that. So, and bring you to this outdoor learning environment. Okay, I'm just going to bring up.
Can I ask, if these two items, the sloped walkway and the bridge, if we were to say, yeah, we can deal with this, we can do without it. But conditions change. Are these things that can be added in after 60%? Can they be? Can we retrieve them if conditions change? How hard is
Meaning, do we take them out at 60 and then at 90 you want to add them back? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. If at 90% we've decided we really don't want to sacrifice these, or somebody drops $5 million on us. Just how easy is it to? I know interior changes are more difficult, but can these be added back in?
So the easy answer would be yes. The challenge that I have with saying that is that if we take it out at 60, Mike has to do a ton of grading in this area to regrade that entire work. So he will have effort that he will have done between 60 and 90 to remove it all. And we won't have advanced the design and detail of it from 60 to 90. So then it's sort of a double effort to put it back.
I guess that's
So that has a cost to it, as Chris had been asking before.
And potentially a time issue, right? Because he's removed it, he spent the time to regrade it, and then he has to put it back. So it takes time as well.
It's to your window.
So.
Okay. Thank
Hey,
you.
Pat, in my experience, things that are taken out in BE don't typically get put back in. Is my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Something worth considering is having things as alternates. And I know we've brought this up before, and Lorraine, I don't know if you want to explain what that means to people. It's definitely more work on your end as a design team. But if folks felt strongly that whether it's an add alternate, meaning it's designed without it for the base bid, an additive cost if the if the bids come in favorably, you can take ad alternates and, you know, the cost could go, and I'm just using an example. What was this, like, say $80,000 for the bridge?
Yeah.
So like you could design it without, and then if the bids come in 100,000 under where you think they are, you could say, I want to take the ad alternate for the bridge. There's more complexity to it than that, but that's like a simple way of doing it. You could also deduct alternate and design it with something in and take it out as a line item out of the bid if the bids come in 100,000 more than the budget. So there's different ways to do that, but just want to plant that seed that if any of these are things that our committee feels we definitely want to try to have in a manner that, you know, would make them an alternate, then we should have those discussions too. Because like I said, it's more work for the design team to do it that way.
Yeah.
Some things are really easy. You just change the spec. Like
Yeah.
some things are like super easy, add alternate or deduct alternate, because it's like a paragraph in the specifications. This one is more complex because there's a lot of design to it. And as Lorraine said, a lot of regrading if this were to go away.
In order to have alternates, for the most part, I need two sets of everything. I need what is the base job and what are we adding or taking away. So for our team, we have two sets of drawings. That's two sets of document management, two sets of specifications in a lot of cases. So it is effort. We typically have alternates on project, but I will say that when it comes to having those discussions, I will have a strong voice on what is a lot of effort versus what is a little effort.
Okay,
We can talk that through.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be a challenging one, but
not the
if there-
simplest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just want to let people know that that could be part of this discussion. It's kind of another layer as we're thinking about what we definitively would consider taking out, what we feel strongly should be in, but what can we do to try and keep it given the budget constraints? You know, there are just different ways to think about it.
I'm just gonna hide these to try and make this more like Sue's, which was as big as she possibly could make it. Just to make it easy for you guys. Okay, so that was the wood bridge. The next item was overflow roof drainage. So this is a hard one to explain to people sometimes. So every building that we design, every school project is required, and other buildings are required to have a backup system in case your internal roof drain clogs and fails. So on a house, you have gutters on the outside, you only have one because if the gutter clogs, it'll overflow the gutter and still come out. When you use a low slope roof, such as most of our school buildings, you have internal gutters with rain leaders that come inside the building, go under the slab and to a drainage system. If that roof drain clogs, you could have significant damage both to your roof, because there's a certain amount of water it can hold, as well as internal if a pipe breaks. So the code requires that we have a secondary roof drain. It's called an overflow. In some cases, it's the same part of the same roof drain, it's higher. So if the water builds up, it goes through that secondary hole, but it needs an independent piping system because that's the whole point. If it gets clogged, it can come out. So you're paying for the more expensive roof drain body, and you're also paying for basically a second level of piping inside the building. It dumps above grade, so we generally don't bring it back into the drain system. And it has what we call like a cow's tongue. You might see it, a very nice brass fixture that looks like a really long tongue, because you want to see if water is coming out of your building, because that's telling you that there's something wrong on the roof. A way around doing that is that we have scuppers, which is we drop the roof edge just a little bit all around the building at various locations. Roofs can generally account for about 1 foot of water on them. The warranty on the roof allows that, the structure is designed for that. So we design it such that between that 0 to 1 foot, if water builds up, it will flow out of that scupper on the roof edge and start coming down over the face of your building, over the face of the brick. And again, you will see it, and that will give you a sense that something's wrong and you'll go fix it. So it is not a huge amount of money, but it's a $59,000, call it $60,000 line item. We do have some clients who prefer to go that way rather than all the additional piping. We know the cost of pipe right now is high, so it's something for discussion. It's something we've done on other projects, which is why we recommended it. And I know that Russ will have an opinion.
Yep. Russ.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. So, Lorraine, how many of those scuppers would we be installing?
We would have quite a few, Russ, because this doesn't show the roof drains on this plan. But for every roof drain, I think, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, for every roof drain, we're gonna need a scupper. So it'll be
I think I
equal
forgot the
amounts.
balance, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there'd be, probably 3 on this elevation, another 1 on this elevation, all the way around, both roofs.
So I'm sure they'll require some type of maintenance too, for cleaning out, or is that
Yeah.
correct?
Well, I mean, they are flush, the roof is flush to the edge, so they shouldn't have anything, but because it is an opening, you could get some leaf debris depending, because this is a pretty woody site, so you'd want to just check them on the same schedule you'd check your normal roof drain baskets.
So if we're gonna have, I don't know if you put into account for the price to install in these scuppers, we're probably gonna need some type of fall protection. If we're gonna have maintenance guys going to the edge of the roof, that's a OSHA requirement. You have to have like a anchor point or a guardrail or something. And so as you mentioned, the savings isn't a lot, but the fall protection systems are very expensive. So
Yeah,
just something to consider. I mean,
Yep. Chris?
Yeah, just to clarify, Lorraine, the drainage is the code required part of this. The scupper part is not either code required or code prohibited. What I'm driving at, we're not giving up something that we need a variance from the building code. Is that right?
That is right. Yes, you just need to provide a mechanism for that secondary drainage, and it can be through the piping or through a scupper. So we meet the intent of the code by doing that. All right, the next few are electrical changes. So 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41, which total about $70,000. We've seen a lot of these come through after we've bid the job. We've seen a lot of the electrical contractors come through and say, hey, can I use this instead of that? And when we've asked, is there a savings there, we get very short dollars. So we have started implementing this as part of the design to get the maximum dollars instead of the minimum, which anyone who has a change order, you pay more when it's an ad and you get less back when it's a credit.
Fit into the window.
So we're trying to, be proactive. It is something that is commonly done. Again, Russ might have an opinion on some of these. It's, direct burial for the branch circuitry instead of the PVC 40. It's all allowed by code. The PVC 40 is just a more durable material than the EB or the DB.
Stuff he went through.
But it all meets code and it all conducts electricity the same way. So Russ has a comment.
Yep. As far as the EB for the underground, that's fine. It's the aluminum feeders to most of the electrical panels in the school. Are they like 200 amp or?
They're mostly 150, I think.
Okay. So it's just when you're using aluminum as a conduit, it's more maintenance involved, and that's why people prefer copper. Yep. So we may be savings up front, but I think aluminum, from what I'm hearing, I'm not an electrical engineer, but it has a tendency to, loosen up, and it doesn't do well with expansion and contraction with heat, and, so it's just going to increase maintenance costs.
Thanks, Russ. Steve?
Yeah, I spoke with a colleague at Northeastern University about that particular item, and they said they'd never do the aluminum feeder because it's not that big of a savings. It does cost additional maintenance, and for institutional use, it's not common. However, in like commercial or fast-paced, lighter development, like commercial development, you see it a lot more often because it's more money-driven, very fast returns. And the long-term longevity isn't as big a concern as it would be here.
Can I just clarify, you're speaking directly to item 37, right, Steve? The aluminum feeders.
Peters, correct, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we can make it, Susan can make a note next to the ones that, especially that Russ has concerns about in terms of increased maintenance, just so we remember that that was something that we heard discussion from Russ.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I just want to point out, Steve makes a good point. This is a 50+ year building versus, you know, something that is more short-term, high turnover type, you know, more commercially driven. So good point. Thank you both.
And just so you all know, we put 42 on here, which is the low energy fire alarm cable in lieu of the MC cable, because we get asked this a lot by the contractors and we don't accept it then, but I wasn't sure if anyone here would bring it to the table. So we wanted to have it on there in case someone does bring it to the table, but that's one we always say no to because we don't believe in that one. But I wanted to, you know, we said we were going to bring everything that we're hearing. So we wanted to be open about that. I do see Russ has his hand up again. Don.
No, Lorraine, I would concur with that. And I think that's something we need to run through the fire department as well. But, and they would probably say, no, they want the MC cables.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
I just want to quickly touch on 43 and 44 because they do say pending, and that's the reason they say pending is because we still are working out details with solar design and CMLP. So currently we have lighting on poles, cameras on poles on our drawings that were part of the DD set. But if the parking canopies go in, we'll need to put camera lighting under those canopies. The school will be owning the cost of the lighting, but the town will be owning the cost of the canopy. So there's some coordination. There's probably going to be some savings there when we get rid of precast bases and poles. But until that's resolved and we have the canopy design resolved with them, we were not comfortable putting any numbers to that because we just don't know. But you know, it's easy to look at it and understand there would be some savings there if we have less precast bases and less poles. So we just wanted to get that on there and we'll continue to track it. All right, I'm going to skip the construction schedule and I don't know if Martine is still with us. She had to drop her son off. She might be back. So I know that as part of the Sustainable Design Subcommittee, we were challenged to continually look at the thickness of our insulation, make sure that we were optimizing insulation, energy performance, airtightness. And we had started with a baseline, which is a baseline we commonly use on our net zero projects. And then as we develop the design, continue to hone that in. Martine and her team did a lot of analysis once we continued to design the building, do energy modeling, and look at what the optimum insulation thickness could be. And we came back with reducing the under slab insulation from 4 to 2, would maintain 4 inches, 6 foot in from the perimeter. It's something we've commonly done and then transition to 2. Reducing the exterior mineral wool from 8 to 6, and then reducing the roof from 10 to 8. It's a large number. It's collectively $474,000. We reran the PEUI analysis and it did increase the PEUI from 25 to 26. Doesn't change your net zero capability. I think it's still a very good PEUI. And this is one that we would love to do if you want to do, because now we're detailing foundations and offsetting the building. And if we're making these smaller, there'd be quite a lot of redrafting needed. So if this was one the committee supported, we would love to just take this and get going with it, to be frank, rather than waiting till 60. This sort of falls into a different category in my mind because it's insulation in walls and cavities. So it's slightly different than, you know, features of the building like the slope walkway that you're gonna use.
Yeah. Matt, are you on the call? Do you have any thoughts about this?
I'm here, Pat. I mean, I personally would be comfortable with this change. I would just look for assurance, Lorraine, that within the current wall detail or the cost estimate for the wall detailing, that we have thermally broken attachment clips and lintels in there. So I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to find out that we don't have those details in there and that we need to increase the costs later on
Yep.
by having given up these costs here.
So we do have them, and I will say, by reducing the wall thickness, it opens the window to a lot more manufacturers to us. Because that 10 inches really requires us to go with a delegated design for a masonry tie, versus when we get back to the 8 inches, there's a lot of manufacturers who have the thermally broken as a product. So
Yep.
And I don't think we've taken, personally, I don't think that's been taken into account in this number. This is really like raw insulation numbers. So I
Right.
think there's potentially a better savings there because we're back to a product instead of a delegated design.
Yeah, in summary, I mean, as long as we've got the proper air barrier detailing and the thermally broken attachment systems in the current number, I would be comfortable with taking these cost savings.
We do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
And for what it's worth, these bring it in line with what I'm typically doing on my buildings. I all along felt like the insulation here was much more than what I'm typically seeing. And did you rerun the like any sort of like dew points, or is there any concern in any kind of like when you design around these things, it affects other things in the building? Are there any concerns there? I assume not, otherwise you wouldn't be putting it forward. So
No, and I'm not sure if we use WFI. I'm not sure if they did the WFI analysis again, but I know that, with a low EUI threshold, Martine is very, clear with us in the beginning that we need to start at a certain level and work down from that, because it's easier to work down than it is to work up.
Sure.
So I know her team ran a bunch of additional energy models. They reran to check what the PUI was. So yeah, we would not recommend it if we had any concern about it.
Okay, just to be clear. Great, thank you.
Okay. The next one is combining the gym and auditorium air handling units. And Chase Gibson is on with us this morning, and I'm not even going to try and do justice for this one.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. So with this one, something we noticed in the design was that the gym and auditorium units kind of ended up right next to each other on the roof. And talking with manufacturers as we were getting cost estimates in, the cost of mechanical equipment has definitely gone up. These particular units have gone up pretty substantially, just because one other thing that we did to these units was that in getting rid of the roof screens, something that we talked about earlier as a value. And so we put on some sound attenuation. Yeah, they're on the left side of this plan, the orange and gray boxes. I'm not sure why they're different colors, but
okay.
Talking to the manufacturer, when they are currently at the 4 and 5,000 CFM marks, they don't have the economies of scale that if you had a 9,000 CFM unit, you would get. And so you're able to have savings of eliminating the curb, eliminating a lot of metal. You still have the same fans. On these, you don't have to have 4 sound attenuators. You can now drop down to 2 sound attenuators. So there are a number of savings by just moving them to 1 unit. Now, the obvious question becomes, well, the gym and the auditorium are different uses. So on these, from a HVAC standpoint, they actually have more similar outside air quantities. So it's going to end up as about a 70 to 75% outside air unit. And we're also looking at putting needlepoint ionization on the units. So this should help reduce any smells, in addition to having a large amount of dilution. So we're not worried about smells crossing from the gym to the auditorium, or I suppose vice versa. Yeah, that was a bit of the mechanical side. Any questions on that?
I have one.
Yeah.
Can you still have parallel performances, meaning you can have
Yes,
something going on in the gym and
we did not downsize the unit. We just
Okay.
added the 2 together. A next level of cost savings would be saying to take a diversity. We didn't feel comfortable with doing that.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions on this one? So it's basically same sizing, same, you know, output and amount of fresh air, but it's combining it into one unit instead of
Right.
two separate. Yep.
Yeah, which eliminates again the box, the controls, the sound attenuators, a lot of the duplicate pieces.
Mhm. And does it affect the ductwork at all or no? How does that?
A little bit. So the main trunk line supply going out will get larger, but instead of having two separate lines, you'll have one larger line. The return ductwork, we're going to have to, you know, work it out so that it to both of those places, but shouldn't be too much of a ductwork add. And I think that was already accounted for in the savings.
Okay, and Lorraine, does that affect ceiling heights or any spaces on the inside or no?
It's just, it'll be a little bit more coordination, but I mean, you're going from 2 to 1, you know, you
Yeah.
give up a little bit in one area and you add in another.
Okay, thank you. Matt Root.
Thanks, Don. Does it affect, does combining and the larger size affect the manufacturers that we were discussing earlier? Chase?
The manufacturers seemed in favor. The manufacturers don't seem to like the smaller boxes. I think at least when I was chatting with them, they said about 10 to 15,000 CFM was the sweet spot. And so when you're down at 5, you're on the smaller side.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, just to confirm, if it was really vital that SMMA know today if we were ready to take it, we would be told that. So this is not in that category, if I'm correct.
Chase, how do you feel about that?
I can wait on this one. Because the units are so close together, yes, I'll have to rework ductwork and I'll have to get some new selections. Since reps make selections for free, I'm going to have a rep start on a selection just so that we can make sure we have dimensional things. This would need to be made at 60%. This is not something that can wait till 90% because there are structural things and lots and electrical as well that are affected. So it does need to be made at 60%, but it does not need to be made today.
I was just gonna ask that about structural. Does it increase the steel size at all? And do you need any?
It would change it because again, instead of having 2 units they're supporting one larger unit. So I think they would just have to support the one bay more and the other bay less.
And this has its own curb. It's not on dunnage or anything.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. All right. It's one less hole in the roof. It's a bigger hole, but
yes.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah,
wait.
I just wanted to say that I haven't heard any words at all in opposition to this change. It just seems like a no-brainer. I don't know why we wouldn't just say, yeah, let's go for it. Is there any reason that we would want 2 units in the future?
I suppose some people do have the concerns of smells. Again, I said the needle point ionization and the high outside air percentage, I do hope would completely eliminate that. The other one is that, you know, if you have 2 units, if one goes down, the other space is still working.
I was just going to say that.
If it goes down, both spaces are down.
Yeah, that's the real downside, Matt, is that if your unit needs work and isn't working, both those spaces have unconditioned air.
Yeah, but usually multiple units lead to more opportunities for failure and for, you know, more long-term maintenance. There's just more to work on equipment.
Yeah.
Yep, there's more filters, there's more, there's definitely
Yeah, I want to make a comment. I tend to agree.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Steve's got his hand up, Charlie. Thank you. Steve. Steve, you're muted if you're talking. You're a little far. Yeah, there you
go. The control sequencing and the dampers that would be required to isolate 2 spaces, if you could just talk about that briefly, just so we could have a better understanding of how you're going to separate the 2 spaces and how they're controlled. Are they on variable frequency drives or at levels of
so in terms of that, both of these units were already looking at having VAV distribution. We wouldn't be closing dampers completely because there is a minimum ventilation rate and we like air moving in each of these spaces even when they are unoccupied, but the VAVs would move to minimum. So you'd still get some airflow in the auditorium, some airflow in the gym, regardless. In terms of working with the controls, again, it'd be the same number of VAV boxes, they just all be tied into the same thing. There would be a little bit more with probably multiple fans in the single unit, and the controls can work with that so that you get the turn down necessary to accommodate both spaces, either both spaces unoccupied, one space occupied, or both spaces occupied.
Does that answer your question, Steve? Great, thanks. Charlie?
Charles, quick question. In the best of times, would this be advisable? Or is the trade-off not as positive as what we're hearing? To me, it seems like a no-brainer. We would want to do this because it just makes sense. But what's your take on that?
I like it. The main thing in SD is we weren't sure where these units were going to end up on the roof. If it turned out that these units were 150 feet apart, it doesn't make as much sense. When it turned out that the units were about 20 feet apart and that the duct run was in basically the same spot, it made a lot more sense. And so there was a lot of appeal to that. It also turned out that outside air percentages weren't that different. And so again, if it had turned out that the gym needed 100% outside air and the auditorium needed 50%, then this wouldn't make sense to combine them. Whereas, when they were the same or similar, we just went with that.
So regardless of the savings, it seems to make sense.
Yes.
Current configuration. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I would recommend we take it now.
Okay, Russ, I see you have a question.
Yeah, Chase, I missed it. Could you just explain again how this would, I have a question on the return air. Because yeah, I think odors and smells, that's definitely could be an issue. Can you explain how that wouldn't happen?
So yeah, good question. And that was my major concern when starting with this. So this unit combined is going to be about 9,000 CFM of supply air. And from a outside air standpoint, it's going to be, I think, 6,500 CFM. So we're over 70% outside air, which means a vast majority of the air that is introduced is completely new and would not have any odor with it at all. We have the MERV 13 filters. We are also putting in needlepoint ionization, which is a source that introduces ions, but also reduces smells and odors. And so we're doing things that will eliminate that anyway, just from an air quality standpoint, because we like what that does for just improving air quality in general in the space, but it has the added benefit of reducing the odor problem as well.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard of that needlepoint ionization. I've heard of carbon filters. That kind of helps remove odors but okay.
Yeah, I can send you some literature on that.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions on that? Do we want to hold till the end as far as, Charlie sort of suggested that we move this forward today. I'm wondering if we get through the rest of the accepted and then see if there's anything we're ready to move forward on today, which this one seems to make some sense.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, the next one is replacing exposed corridor ceilings with ACP. Jump to one of the interior elevations here to give you a sense. If you remember, we talked about, this is an example of where that occurs at the team commons. We had exposed the ceiling in this one area. This is ACT, acoustic ceiling tile, that is above my desk right now and above Steve's and others. But the idea here was to create a different dynamic as they're walking through the corridor. They start to see how buildings are put together. We often do this as part of a teaching tool, so students can understand services and HVAC and electrical and plumbing and as they go about their day in school. So we put K13, which is a spray acoustic material on the deck, because that can be very noisy otherwise. So it helps reduce some of the sound transmission, particularly when you're outside some classrooms. It's not, there's a cost to it. It costs more than the regular ceiling tile. So that savings was about 32,000. It's not huge, but it is something. So we did put that on there. The next one was Quarry Tile and base with epoxy at the kitchen. Dawn in her office does this pretty much as a standard. We've had feedback from clients that it's harder to clean the epoxy at times, but then you also have all the grout joints in the Quarry Tile. So it's a plus or minus. It's really a personal choice. I think Sarah Long is still on here, our interior designer. When you do the epoxy, because it's in the kitchen, you have to have a little bit more grit in it because of a slip resistance. So, some of our clients haven't been thrilled with that, just because if you're mopping the floor, it can tend to rip some of those mops. So again, it's really doesn't affect the educational program. It's more of a preference and maintenance preference, but there is a cost associated with it. The epoxy is cheaper, and particularly because we're doing it in some other places in the building, there's already mobilization for it. I'm not sure if Russ has an opinion on it or not.
I have a question on both, if Russ is thinking about anything as it relates to that. The K13, I never love what that looks and feels like. Just so everyone knows, it kind of looks like spray on. I don't know how to. I don't know if people.
Popcorn.
Yeah, it's like you can sort of see it there. That's wire management, right? That gray.
That's wire management. Yeah, but here it's like on the deck.
Up on the deck, so it's almost like not a popcorn ceiling, but like the look and feel of like when you see a piece of steel that's been fireproofed. I don't know how else.
Looks like gunite. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you paint that?
So we typically would do a white.
A white. Okay.
Because you can get it you can get it in colors.
Yeah.
So
usually it's gray. In my office, it's like a neutral gray.
Yeah.
Anyway, with the ceiling, my question, I'm leading up to a question, I promise. The ceiling, you have like a differential. So you had the deck, which is sprayed. Then you had I think a soffit. Yep. And then you had the ACT, and it looks like there's some sort of axiom trim there. Would the ACT be at the same level? Would it just be flat, or would it be still high? Would you have the ability to differ the ceiling heights is my question.
Yeah, I think we'd want to maintain a little bit of difference there as you move through the corridor. So that'd still be, whether we'd end up with that, that detail with the axiom and that amount of soffit, we'd have to analyze that and see what looks best.
Yeah, I mean, there's something nice about the variety here that gives the corridor a little more interest than just a flat ACT with 2x4 lights as an example, or 2x2 lights.
We want to create a difference between the team commons and the corridor. We want to give that its own space.
Yep. Okay. And then I just wanted to point out with the epoxy, sometimes it's the Department of Public Health that weighs in, that has dictated why, and we definitely hear the same thing about the mops. It's got a, like Lorraine said, there's a texture to it that could like rip things up, especially like a wet mop. But sometimes we've had, the local Department of Public Health say, we don't want all those joints in the Quarry Tile. We want you to do a poured epoxy because it basically is an integral base that gets poured in, and there's no jointing. So there's nowhere for bacteria and things to live and grow. So just for feedback on that. Sometimes our clients feel strongly one way, sometimes they don't. I don't know if you guys had those discussions with food service and any of your meetings, but that's often where our decision starts. And then if they don't have an opinion, we'll do epoxy because it's easy and it's, cleanly.
Yeah. I think Russ was going to say something.
Yeah, Russ.
I'm good with this, Board of Health, maybe see what they record, what they like, but so.
Yeah.
And this is one of those easy changes for us.
Newton made us do epoxy. Like there's certain towns that that's just like what they do. That's what they require. I've never done any projects in Concord, so I don't know.
Okay.
Here. All right.
I'll keep us going.
Thanks.
so this is a no-brainer, and I would love to do this one if we want it, if we're gonna say, let's move ahead with a few. When we start the project, we have a uniform slab on grade. As we continue to design the project, our engineers looking at loads, what's in the building. We have heavier loading requirements in the gymnasium and the auditorium. So the upper wing, you'd want to maintain a uniform thickness for the concrete there. It's going to be cheaper on the labor rather than trying to set different heights. But on the academic wing, we could absolutely pull that back to 4 inches thick concrete. There's not a lot of loads on the floor over there. It's a $58,000 savings. Seems like a no-brainer that we would just do this. The next one is the vape detection system. So vaping is a significant problem in schools today. And vape detection is one of those things that can help you. It's like a smoke detector. It picks up the water vapors. Our bathrooms do have fully enclosed stalls. So the reason why the cost is high on this is because you need one in every stall. I don't know if Lori has an opinion on this or not. We've just been seeing it as an issue and hearing it as an issue through our educational planning, even at the middle school level. So we put it on there.
I'm happy to weigh in.
Yeah.
We've talked about this prior to the project and had some back and forth about it. Our bigger problem is at the high school. There's no question there. And frankly, COVID disrupted it all to a positive effect so far. We have no vaping detection at the high school. I'd be a little reticent to put it into a middle school before the high school's accomplished. I see the opportunity, but I don't know if it's worth the cost right now. When we brought it up 3 or 4 years ago, there was some concern among the community and sitting school committee at the time, and we weren't even at a point of consensus on whether it was what we wanted to do. So I'm willing to let it go. I know there's other ways we can put it in later if we decide to take this on as a district.
And I agree. We've only seen a problem in 8th grade. But I do think about my colleagues up at the high school, who, as Lori just said, don't have any sort of system in place. We're also doing a lot of preventative through curriculum. And that's where we've seen the most impact.
Thank you, guys. The next item we had was replacing granite curbing at straight sections with precast concrete curbing. This is a tough one, right? Because we all know that granite will hold up the best. Precast holds up pretty well from plowing in the straight runs, but not on the radiuses. That's where it tends to get chunked and broken up a lot. We try and stay away from these type of changes, I'll be honest, but we understand the cost of granite, and it is a curb. So I do see that we have a question from Peter on it, and then maybe Mike can touch on it.
Yeah, my question on this is simply that I really think it's short-sighted sometimes when we make these decisions to cut costs, and then we're going to end up replacing these things in 10 years or whenever they start wearing down. So can you comment on the lifespan of the curbing versus the granite, or the proposed curbing versus the granite on a normal use? How long is it going to last?
Yeah, sure. A lot of it, Peter, as you probably know, depends on how it's maintained, how often it's maintained, how much. It's generally, like Lorraine said, it's generally all about snow removal, right? That's where it gets really popped. And on the straightaways, we're okay usually, but like Lorraine said, it's the curves, some that becomes a real problem. 10 years is probably about right. If it was curved sections, I'd say a year or two, to be completely honest. But there's other ways to handle this too, that where maybe we leave granite, instead of saying we're going to put straightaways, concrete, and curved areas granite, maybe there's an opportunity to say where there's a lot less traffic or it's a lot less visible, maybe that becomes concrete, and when we keep the granite in the high traffic, high visibility areas, that's also a way to do it. But if I'm being completely honest, like Lorraine said, this isn't one that we generally try to look at unless it's an absolute last resort because of long-term maintenance items.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Did you say concrete or bituminous?
No, concrete.
Precast.
Yeah, we
Precast.
would
Okay.
not be recommending bituminous at all.
Yeah, that's why I was
don't-
like, wait a minute. let's-
Yeah, no, we can't do bituminous up against concrete because
God,
we can't
no.
get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we can't get that joint.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard you right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Dawn, is this one we could put in that if we, had money, we could put in? I just hate to see us cut stuff that's just gonna require more maintenance down the road. It just seems very short-sighted.
This could be an alternate for sure.
Yeah, this is a perfect candidate for.
Yeah.
Yep.
The next one we had in here is the Ever Alert Master Clock System. It is one of the proprietary items. If you remember, we introduced proprietary items to you a few meetings ago, which we'll still need to vote on at some point. This is the clock system in the classrooms that can provide a digital message to the classrooms in the event of an emergency. I think Laurie or Justin, I'd need you to speak to this.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. I mean, to some extent, we don't know what we don't know. Everything's a step up at Sanborn and Peabody, obviously. So we don't have any system like that in any of the other schools. So I think we have other technology options to get messaging out and can be okay with that.
Yeah, I have no experience with that sort of technology, so it's hard for me to comment.
My only question would be, would it factor into any sort of security protocols? Just something to think about, Justin and Lori. With newer technology and newer opportunities comes potential for different security protocols. So not that I want you to talk about that here, but just something to think about. Alert systems and whatnot.
Court has his hand up. Down.
Yes, Court.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Lori Hunter's onto it here, that this would be nice, but we do have alternate technologies that she and her team are working on with the police department for mobile devices that can do a great deal to connect teachers. I'm not going to try to speak to it with the knowledge that Lori has, but this would not be the only mechanism in a crisis for teachers.
That is correct.
Alexa?
On that though, but is it like far superior? Like, is this something, and again, I know that talking about security is challenging. Is this something that ultimately is like you can press a button in a main office and an alert just seamlessly goes out everywhere? I was thinking like a clock telling me the time. This seems like it's far beyond.
So it's a digital clock that tells the time, and then there is a button that you can have different programs and you can hit it, and instead of the time, it will come up shelter in place, or
and it's all very quiet and it doesn't
nothing.
alert,
Yeah,
and it's quick.
Digital. But
Okay.
there's multiple ways of doing it. There's multiple different technologies. So this is one that was discussed during programming. So this is one that was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like this is something that could be added later with a different technology or the similar technology, or we could decide that conditions require that, but it could be added later.
So we need to put a master clock system into the building one way or another. So we would put a standard master clock. So every classroom needs a clock.
Okay.
Then you wouldn't be retrofitting that, you'd be adding a supplemental to it.
Okay.
So you'd still be paying for the clock and then paying for this separately. So it would cost you more in the long run.
So the 91,000 is if we have the add-on to the master clock.
It's if you have this version of it, correct?
Okay, all right.
Okay. Our next recommended item was another site one. We have granite bollards along the front of the drop-off zone and changing those to concrete filled with galvanized steel, or galvanized steel with concrete. And that is, this path right along here. So adjacent to the building, it is a It is both a security and a safety measure to have the bollards, so we're not recommending eliminating bollards, we're recommending changing the type.
And these would be more comparable with what we have at the high school. Would I be correct?
I'm not sure what you have at the high school court. That'd be painted steel with concrete infills and a.
Or I looked at the high school. The high school has bollards that are steel, concrete filled steel pipe. They
Okay.
had 11 of them in front of the sidewalk to the front door. That's it for the whole BD CCHS site. Same idea. I mean, it's a security type of thing.
Yep.
And they look fine.
Are they painted, Lorraine, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
so
it
that's a
depends.
maintenance thing.
Actually,
ones-
is it painted? Sorry. I
The
think
ones
this
at the
is
high
stainless.
school are not painted. They're exposed stainless steel.
So this was
Stainless or
galvanized.
galvanized?
Stainless.
Yeah, there's a cover that slides over them.
Right, right.
I think this was galvanized, right? This price was for galvanized, not for the stainless cover.
I think that price was for galvanized, and I had put a note in there saying that there's an option to put the stainless
Which would be less,
sleeve over it.
less of a savings.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, stainless is gonna cost you more than galvanized. Yep.
It's up, Don. Alexa and Chris.
Yep. Alexa, do you have another question? Nope.
No.
Chris.
Yeah, Michael can probably speak to this, but depending on the dimension of the granite, sometimes the granite is not as robust, breaks more easily if a truck gets out of line than the steel ones.
That's accurate. That's accurate. They're strong. You know, the size of these that we had specified on here were 6x12, I believe. So they were pretty good size. But you're absolutely correct that a concrete filled steel pipe would have a little more resiliency to it than granite.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? All right.
So that was the end of the
Steve.
acceptance. Oh,
Sorry,
Steve.
one more, Lorraine. Steve?
Is it a brick sidewalk? I mean, we have granite curbing. Just the aesthetic of this, is it gonna look odd to have steel pipes when all the other elements of the sidewalk and the landscape would lend to a granite curb or posts? What would the landscape architects?
So the location that Lorraine was pointing to along the front parallel to the building, where the parent drop off is, that's concrete sidewalk. Then the rest of the bollards that run, we'll say north-south along where the buses are, those are set right now. Currently, the current design has those set with unit pavers. The ground plane treatment is unit pavers through there.
And we're talking about all of the bollards. There's a ton of these things, right?
We're talking about all of them, yeah.
And the unit pavers, are they brick or are they concrete look or?
Concrete, precast
Would
concrete.
you say that the metal would you specify this metal as your first choice in another project in another time, or is this something that's a detriment to the aesthetic?
We typically try to, from an aesthetic standpoint, we would typically, when we're doing steel bollards at another project, at another schooling, we're putting the stainless steel sleeves over them. We typically go in that direction at main entrances like this. We typically go in that direction or granite, but we have done other schools where we've done the painted steel bollards. I think Dawn makes a point that there's some maintenance to it, but you also have some control over the aesthetic when you have the ability to choose the paint colors too.
We do have concrete filled, but at the back of the house by the loading dock.
That's
so
correct.
we use them in the utility yard, so to speak. But when they're out front, we try and go with a little nicer appearance.
I mean,
there's a lot of them. How many are there?
69.
59? 59?
69.
69. 69? Ooh.
$1,000
Because
a
we
piece.
have a double bus drop off.
Yeah. How does that second one work? They drive over that walkway? That one?
Yes.
The walkway is flush through there. That's correct.
Yeah.
Which is the reason for the bollards, because all the paver walkway is flush with the road.
Right.
So you need a separation.
We always develop our drop offs as a flush condition, not a 6-inch reveal curved condition.
Steve, do you still have a question, or is your hands lingering?
Sort of to all of these, we're just discussing for further discussion about, I mean, there's 3 options here. Right? There's the galvanized, there's the stainless steel cover. I guess there's a 4th option with painted, and then there's granite. So I don't know how that is going to proceed, but I'll let you guys, I don't think we've come to a final decision, right?
The cost is for galvanized, is my understanding. So if we wanted to consider one of the others, I suppose we need to ask them to ask the cost estimators to provide a savings for those other alternatives. Is that correct, Lorraine?
Yes, that's correct.
And to follow up, if I may.
Sorry, 1 second, Court. Matt was first and then you. Sorry.
I would just like to have an action item where we ask for a price on the stainless steel sleeved ballards, because, you know, they're used at other facility in town. And I think that it seems like a nice potential savings, but we don't know how much it is. So it'd be good to see that option.
Okay. We can do that, Matt. Court, did you took your hand down?
Yeah, Mr. Johnson said it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the list. The only 2 things that changed were we did get pricing from the estimators on the gym and the auditorium. I think if you remember, you had asked us to, you know, not use the cost per square foot cost and ask them to get it. There's quite a difference between the 2 estimators on those prices, but PM&C was for the gymnasium. I don't know what happened to my text here. That's weird. For the gym, the reconciled value is 1.2. I think we had 2 million as a ballpark, and for the auditorium, it's 670, and we had 1 million. So those are the 2 numbers that changed in the revised VM log that went out. Those are that's the feedback from the estimators.
Before you get to those, we had a blank, I think, under the roof, under the ceiling height for the gym. I don't know whether you want to discuss that now or not, but
it's on. So I'm sorry, we did get a price for that. So that's $104,000. We had it in the reject column for right now. But yes, we can, if we reduce the height of the gymnasium, it's approximately 5 feet. We would be within regulation for the MIAA basketball. So again, coming out of SD, we don't have all our steel sized, we don't have all of our duct runs. So we maintain a certain height. Now that we were in DD, we finalized the size of the joists in the gym. We've got more clarity on the duct runs. We got our clearance that is required by MIAA, and it would allow us to reduce the height of the gym. Currently, the design has the height of the auditorium and the gym at the same elevation. This one. And so we would end up dropping this down. So these 2 roofs would become disconnected. And we would drop this down because we do need to maintain the clearance in the auditorium for the fly loft. So, but that would result in a savings of approximately $104,000.
so we can discuss that when we come back to look at all the rejects. So we don't need to discuss that now.
Absolutely. Yep. So what we had recommended was a $2 million list. And I know that not everybody was in favor of everything that was on here today. I do know there were a few on here that we would be very grateful if we could move the dime on, just from a detailing perspective. If some of the simpler ones could move.
Lorraine, I was going to recap it, but do you want to speak to which ones might be able to move forward and decide on now, in the interest of sending you directions so you're not drawing it twice, basically?
Yeah, I'd love to. The 17A, the interior light shelf, which is $122,000. I think the
mechanical.
Where am I? I haven't got there yet. Did I get there? I haven't got there yet.
I was just
The
going
ins-
off of memory.
Yep, the 3 installations, 47, 48, and 49. We'd love to move on. The AHU at the gymnasium, if it's there, that'd be great, 53. I mean, if 55, the floor tile and epoxy is an easy one for you, we'll get in touch with the Board of Health and just move that. If that's not, and then 61, I'd love to take the concrete slab because of the detailing if possible. The rest of them are all, you know, we can continue to move ahead, but if there were any others that you felt were, that you just want to move with, we can. I think you guys had talked about the master clock or the vaping.
Yeah, does anyone feel strongly one way or another about, I mean, I'd love to help our designers. If any of this is like, you know, super low hanging fruit, we do it no matter what the, you know, budget was telling us. Like the air handling unit as an example, right? Like that seems fairly straightforward. And that came out of just moving the design along and realizing, hey, there, you know, we could consolidate. That seems to make sense.
You have a bunch of hands up.
Yep, Matt.
Yeah, so I would just say that the air handling seems like very worthwhile doing now, especially because it will help streamline our future process, not to have to rehash it another time. That the vaping, it didn't sound like the school administration was really pressing for it. And then the master clock, again, it didn't sound like it was that essential. If we could just get those now, I think in part it would just let us know a little bit more where we stand, and it'll let us focus future discussions.
Thank you, Matt. Pat.
So I think I agree with Matt on all of those items. I think that there are other items that look like they would be pretty easy for us to make a decision on now. I wonder if the most efficient way to do this is to kind of group things into what Lorraine just listed as the things they really want us to know about now. And let's see if we have consensus on the committee to let those go. And then if we could come back and come up with a list of other things that we have identified that we think are potentials that we could remove at this point. And I guess I'm speaking personally, I kind of came up with my own list of the things that I heard were not going to be controversial that I think we can buzz through. But I think we have to start with what Lorraine has just listed and see if we have some consensus on all of those. And I don't know, Susan, can you highlight the ones that that Lorraine just listed?
I think Lorraine's sharing.
Yeah, Lorraine took over the Vanna White portion of our.
Yep, I'm sure. So I can, why don't I highlight and say it again? So 17B, which is the interior light shelf. (47, 48, and 49, which are the insulation. 53, which is the combining the gym and auditorium AHUs. 55, which is the quarry floor tile in conjunction with confirming the Board of Health's wishes. So we will make sure that we reach out on that. 61, the concrete slab thickness. Those are the ones for SMMA that I would really appreciate not drawing twice if we don't have to.
Do you have an order of magnitude on those amounts? Is there an easy way to figure out what that savings would yield?
Wrong button, wrong button. Hang on. Whoa. Okay. So. Nope, hang on. It's not doing it for me right now, but that was 122. 122 and 474. I'll do it the old fashioned way. Calculator. 72. And I'm rounding. 47. And 59. That's 774.
Wow.
And I just rounded.
So I'm wondering if we could get a motion to, someone wants to put on the floor to accept those recommendations from SMMA at this point. I don't know if that's the chair, I can do that.
So moved.
Thank you, Court. That was for 17B, 47, 50, sorry, 47, 48, 49, 53, 55, and 61.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank
Second.
you, Court. And a second, I don't know who that was.
Here.
That was
Oh, thanks, Peter.
And,
All right.
and there was a note that the Board of Health would be pulled in on 55.
55. Yep.
Yep, correct.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, let me do, oh, sorry, did someone have discussion?
I think Pat's got her hand up.
Oh, no,
That's a residual, I think.
that's a residual, sorry.
Nope, that's okay. Thanks for pointing it out. Any discussion, last call? All right, let me take a roll call vote. Alexa?
Yes.
Thank you, Court.
Yes.
Frank? Can anyone see Frank? I can't with the screen sharing. Frank? We're
He's
voting
saying
on.
yes. He's saying yes.
Okay.
I see him.
Okay, thank you. I can't see him. Peter?
Yes.
Dawn's a yes. Lori?
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Johnson?
Aye.
Pat Nelson?
Yes.
Chris?
Aye, yes, thanks. I got to punch out for another.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Charlie Parker?
Aye.
Thank you. Matt Root?
Yes.
Thank you. And Steve?
Yes.
Great. All right, well, that's progress, everyone. Almost 800,000, just shy of. That's great. And then our designers has information to move forward. I think the only request I saw as far as continuing discussion was for the stainless steel at the bollards, Lorraine.
Yep, we'll get a price for that.
Okay, excellent.
Did you guys want to take any action on the items that you talked about, which was the vape detection and the master clock?
Yes, I'm wondering if someone wants to put forth a motion for other items, which then Lorraine could highlight in red or pink or something, so we could see what they are. Maybe we could group another set of items that seemed pretty clear in our discussion.
Court, I see your hand.
Yeah, I wonder, Lorraine, could you speak a little bit more to vape and master clock? Should we put those on an adult? Does that require much drawing on your part? I'm guessing master clock, no, and vape, I don't know.
I think the master clock is very little effort on our part because we're going to have the clock anyway, and it's a different type of clock.
Right.
The vape is a different system. We'd have to show every vape detector and have that as a base bid and an alternate. I think it's really more a operational conversation than it is, what we can do for you, Court, because we want to make sure that we're putting in something, one, that you want to use, and two, that probably as a district you are supporting.
Okay. Pat, if it's appropriate, I would move that we withdraw the vape detection and the master clock. I don't have those item numbers in front of me.
64 is the vape detection and 73 is the master clock.
I think we've heard from our education professionals on this, such that this would be acceptable, if I'm correct.
So are there other items that people, well, let me add a couple more items and see if there's consensus on these items. Does that feel right?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, I would say 64 and 73 as Court stated the vape and the master clock. It seemed to me that the acoustic tile versus the exposed, number 54, was a fairly simple thing to address. The ballards, maybe not so much, but the ballards number 79 seemed to me to be fairly simple. And I'm sorry, Lorraine, did you include 61 and 55 in your list?
I did
Yeah, they were
include
part of the motion.
61
They were part of the motion.
and I did include 55, yes.
Okay, all right, okay. So it's the 73 and the 79.
Yeah.
So I've made too many circles on my notes, so that I don't know where I'm doubling up, but.
So I can give you the numbers. Right now,
Okay.
it's 54, the K13 ceiling, 64, the vape detection, 73, the master clock, and 79, the bollards. Those are the 4 that I have right now.
Which would be an addition.
Oh, 1, 2, 6. With ours, yes. And that's
So is
worth
that-
approximately 300,000.
Wow. All right. So collectively, we'd be over $1 million savings if we took all that today.
You have a bunch of hands up, Don.
Yep. Steve.
Would add a few, but take one away. The bollards, I think we should consider different bollards before we decide on just going with the galvanized. I think that was part of the discussion. I hope that we can consider alternatives. But that's just, I'll put that on the table. And the others that I would like to add are, Russ could correct me if I'm wrong, number 36, the overflow numbers, 38, 39, 40, and 41, which were the buried EV conduit. And I think we should eliminate 7, the aluminum feeders. So in order, plumbing accepted, aluminum feeders not accepted. Sorry, 36 accepted, 37 not accepted, 38, 39, and 40, 41 accepted.
I would concur with that, Steve.
That was rough. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Back to the bollards then. I would assume that 6 through 41. Yes, no, yes, yes, yes. On the bollards, am I right that we should look for different pricing alternatives before we decide or vote?
It sounds like Matt wanted to see that. So I think that's worth continuing to get those. Stainless will be more than galvanized. So the savings will be less, is my understanding.
Yeah, but they'll
We
still be
just
safe.
don't know how much less. and it'd be
Right.
great
Yeah,
to
that's
know.
right. So
We can
that's,
bring that to a future meeting if you guys
Okay.
want
And
to.
that's not pressing at this point.
No, it's not pressing.
that's an easy, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So if
Karen,
you're
we'll
good with
take that
that,
out.
I'm gonna take that off. Okay.
Okay. Alexa, I see your hand.
Yeah, so then the amendment or the second motion would instead include the addition of the line item 36 for the scuppers, 38 through 41, the electrical, 654, the tile, 64, the vape, 73, the clock, and we'd remove 79, the
Yeah.
bollards.
That's right.
Okay, that's excellent. That's it. Not really a question, just wanting to make sure we took out those bollards.
Okay.
Thanks.
So do I have this right? 36, 38, 39, 40, 41, 54, 64, 73.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll just get an order of magnitude for you.
I'll make a motion to vote on those items.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let me take a roll call vote. Alexa.
Should we wait for Lorraine? Just,
Oh, the
It's
amount.
approximately 275.
Okay, so like
I'm in favor of that. Yes.
1.2. Okay, thank you, Alexa. Court,
aye.
thank you. Heather's not with us. Frank?
Yes, Frank said yes.
Okay,
can see
thank
him.
you, Frank. And thanks, Lorraine. Peter?
Yes.
Dawn's a yes. Lori?
Yes.
Thank you. Matt Johnson?
Aye.
Pat?
Yes.
I think Chris had to leave. Charlie?
Aye.
Thank you. Matt Root?
Yes.
Thank you. And Steve?
Yes.
Great. All right, do I have it right? We're like 1.2-ish order of magnitude?
I think so. I will do the
okay.
math and
2.5.
I will get it out.
Okay. I think, and none of that affects the
Educational
general
program.
student experience, the educational plan, the day-to-day operations in my mind. It's some of it's aesthetic, some of it's, simplicity, combining units. Some of it's just, making smart decisions. So I think that was good work today, everyone. And I think the designers are thankful that they have some decisions to move forward on. So let's see. Am I missing anything as far as any follow-up to that? We have not gone through what the designers have rejected as far as recommendations. So I think that will be our next meeting. Oh, you know what? Oh my God, Heather's gonna kill me. I never read what she, hold on. I need to, as part of discussion. Sorry, Heather, if you're watching the video. She sent Pat and I an email yesterday saying that she is 6 hours difference. There's no way for her to participate today, and she's extremely sorry for that. I'm just going to read, if that's okay, what she wanted to share with everyone. Hi all, I apologize that I cannot be there to join you as I'm out of the country and offline at this time. As I said at the last meeting, we have a clear responsibility to do the due diligence. Could everyone just mute, please? I'm getting a little feedback. Thank you. We have a clear responsibility to do the due diligence of saving where we safely can and where it will affect neither the ed plan nor the viability of the building. I applaud the design team for identifying some places where we can do this. With that in mind, however, I also feel that it's critical that we keep the process in context and commit to continue designing this building for the long term. If we subscribe to short-term thinking and cut corners now in ways that affect the usefulness of the building because of unexpected and unprecedented global economic pressures, I believe that we will be seen in the long term as short-sighted and irresponsible. For instance, will reducing the building's insulation or concrete slab have long-term sustainability or maintenance ramifications and costs? Will removing the classroom light shelves create visibility challenges for decades of students and teachers to come? I don't know the answers, but I don't know the answers to these questions. And if they are all negative, then these may be appropriate ways to save, but I hope they will be discussed and considered at today's meetings. On an aesthetic note, the wooden bridge seems initially like an easy way to shave off $80,000 from the budget, but let's consider our stated goal of ensuring a calming sense of place through a connection to nature. If we now start replacing too many instances of natural materials with asphalt and cement walkways, we will significantly alter the look and feel of the campus that we are creating for future generations. I strongly believe that creating a natural and aesthetically pleasing environment for our campus should remain a high priority, as it has been from the beginning. As many have said before me, let's not be penny wise and pound foolish. It goes without saying that I reiterate my firm belief that we need to solicit feedback from the community, including a town meeting vote, before making any significant cuts to the design. For today, however, I hope the discussion can address the following considerations: ramification to classroom experience of removing the light shelf, scheduling ramifications, and effective connection to nature of reducing outdoor classrooms, sustainability/maintenance ramifications, reducing insulation, reducing concrete slab, and replacing granite with cement. Ramifications to connection of nature, campus environment of removing wooden bridge. Understanding of level of need for vape detection system, ramifications to student experience of any other change proposed. Thank you all for continuing this difficult and important discussion. I look forward to being there in person next time. Gratefully, Heather. So with that, I just want to apologize to her for not doing that before we voted on anything. But also, the only thing I see out of her concerns, we didn't move forward on any bridge changes. We didn't move forward on any concrete to granite. We didn't move forward on the vaping. We did, but heard from Lori and Justin that that level of detection was probably not necessary at this age. They were trying to stem that problem in other ways through education and information. I would say the light shelves. Do you have like Mecco shades or something, Lorraine? Some sort of perf shade?
Oh, yeah.
that-
No, there's
Yeah.
shade. Yeah, there's shades inside the window.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I mean, the alternative on that, from where I sit, a light shelf on the south side is completely beneficial, can help, you know, deter or prevent glare, but also bounces light deeper into the classroom with some sort of mechanism of a, and I'm saying Mecco, it's a brand, it could be any brand, but it has a perforation. So you still see, you know, some, depending on the perforation that you use, a 10% perf, you can still see outside, you still get the natural light, but you don't get the glare. So there's ways in which that can be managed, just for everyone's information. And Lorraine's saying they have that on this project. As far as, you know, like right now I'm getting glare on my table, I would pull my perforated shade if I had one, and I wouldn't have the glare, but I'd still get natural light. It would be more diffused. So I just want to point out that that's, you know, still in the project and still capable of controlling that. So I don't think we were cutting the insulation. She makes a good point, but I think we confirmed that, you know, through energy modeling and updated information, that it didn't sound like that was a huge change. It had a 1 PEUI differential. It still kept us in the mid 20s, is my understanding, from 25 to 26.
Correct.
And then the slab, I think, is more of a, I don't see any issue with the slab.
Nope. Nope.
So anyway, I just want to address Heather's concerns, and as if she were here and could share her thoughts on that.
I did tally the numbers accurately while we were doing this, while you were going through that letter. So just for your records, it's 1.109369 accepted today, 47,959 rejected today. And just so people understand what we rejected, because I think it is important, it was the changing the aluminum feeders and the fire alarm cable. So just for tracking purposes. And I will get this over to Hill and they can verify it, and then they can issue it for record. And I did create a new tab for today, so we still have the old one, and we'll continue to do that moving forward. But I do want to say that the design team is very grateful for taking some action on these. It will save us time. And we don't think that there's been any detrimental impact to the educational program or the educational plan and the vision for the school with these decisions today.
Yeah. I applaud the group for, you know, doing their homework, asking good questions, and you know, making decisions that allow our designers to keep moving forward, save some money in ways that aren't affecting our student experience and our ability to deliver quality education. So I think that's a job well done. Where am I in the agenda? So communications, we move forward. New business. Is there anything anyone's got? No? Okay. Public comment. I saw some chats pop up and didn't want to acknowledge them until now, but I don't know if the people who, Nat or Wilson, if they're on, I'm just going to take a moment and read what they wrote, which was probably, one of them was more than an hour ago, but agreeing with comments on number 30, that without the walkway, kids may attempt to time jump between outdoor areas. Keeping walkable connection would be much more desirable if budget allows as an ad alternate. So that was Nat Kessler, and Wilson asked, it did the, oh, he was, that was a direct, he was asking about the walkway and bridge, and that was not, no action was taken on that today. Chris Reynolds, I see your hand. Will you tell us who you are, where you live, and let us know what you're wanting to share today?
Thank you, Dawn. So good morning. Good work
morning.
today. I'm Chris Reynolds, Captain Miles Lane. I'm the FinCom observer of this committee, one of two, and I'm speaking in that capacity. So as you know, FinCom advises town meeting on financial matters, which would include any potential request for additional funding for the new middle school. In considering such a request, FinCom will consider a number of factors, but will look to this committee's process around addressing the budget overrun. So for instance, was there a rigorous VE process? Was it transparent? And importantly, was there an appropriate tension between budget and design goals in committee deliberations? So FinCom has discussed the project at recent meetings, and we provide two observations for your consideration at this point. One, we're concerned that a VE approach that starts with the premise that aspects of the building design, namely ed space, cannot be touched, will limit the identification of opportunities to resolve the $5.3 million cost issue. Second, the VE dollar goal has yet to be identified. Given the risk of further price increases, we believe you should be considering increasing the savings sought beyond the 5.3 million to allow for further contingency in the case of additional price increases between the estimate you received in May and where you finally end up in April. Thank you.
Hey, Chris. Any other public comments? Wilson Kerr?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
We can. Tell us your name and address, please, Wilson, and then feel free to make your statement.
Sorry, Wilson Kerr, 20 Damon Street in Concord.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, incredible work today. It's unbelievable to see this process and to see all the hard decisions made. So regarding the FinCom comment that was just made, it seems clear to me that there is a lot of work being done. But obviously, all this work resulted in $1 million being shaved off. And that leads me to a reaction to the second point just made regarding the FinCom, which is that you're going to have to touch the ed plan at some point. So there is a conflict coming. This group has said repeatedly that that's off limits, but yet after all this work today to get to 1 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of effort, but it's not close. It's 1%. We're already at 5. You could be at 10 in October, or it could go down. I understand this is a good faith effort and it has to be made. And the work today was just incredible to watch this process play out. But I would reiterate what I made in public comments. It was made by me at the last meeting last week, that there is another alternative. And I'm pleased to see that some significant cuts were avoided. And that alternative is to take this back to the town to bridge that delta rather than do what the FinCom, even though I know that's their job, has just suggested. So again, I would just reiterate to make sure the parallel path is made, that all preparations are made with Matt and the town for the alternative, because this delta still seems wide as per all the effort that was made in this meeting. And that alternative is, of course, the parallel path of making sure a special meeting is set up, that we don't wait until the 60%, even though I know that's what this group voted on. And we have this collision that cannot be, that a special town meeting cannot be organized in time and then suddenly have costs running out of control. So please do keep an eye on that parallel path and make sure all efforts are made to prepare for that town meeting. Thank you very much. And again, incredible work today. It's really interesting to see. I know you guys are all volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson. Any other comments? No? Last call? Wilson, your hand's still up, but I'm assuming you're through your comment. Thank you. Okay. By the way, I just want to share that an article was shared with me that if anyone's paying attention, Tisbury on the Cape, they have a $55 million project. that the bids came in at 86 and they have to go back to the town on September 20th to ask their town for 26 million more. So just, there's a lot going on in the world. And if you're following along, you know, articles like that, you know, we're not alone, and we're definitely not in the worst position here. So I just want to share for context. Anyway, I think that's it on public comments. So next steps, I think we need another meeting to go through the rejected. Yes, would everyone agree? Yes, I see heads nodding, but okay.
Yes.
All
Definitely.
right. Okay, when would you guys like to have, I think our next advertised meeting isn't until the end of this month. Do I have that right? Lorraine or others? Let me open my calendar here. The 20-something is my recollection.
I would propose that we meet next week.
The
Or
11th?
sooner. I don't, Lorraine, is there guidance on any other work that needs to take place in order for us to, on your side, for us to keep going through this process?
I have a conflict next week, but I can see if someone from my team can be there. I could meet on the 18th.
So the 18th is next Thursday. I would propose that we schedule.
No, hold on, Pat. Next Thursday is the 11th. The 18th is the
Oh,
weekend.
I'm sorry, the 11th. I've jumped a week.
And just for reference, if I'm remembering correctly, Ian's away next week?
That's correct.
So Ian's on vacation and Lorraine has a conflict. So just putting that out there, Pat.
Can we do the 18th? We
I
already
can
have
do
the
the 18th.
25th. I'm on vacation the 25th, but I will log in that day because I can.
I think we definitely should meet before the 25th. I don't know what the other members of the committee think, but I think we want to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, I would say the 18th is a very good idea, and earlier is better than later because we get to take advantage of the time that we've got between now and the end of August to straighten this stuff out. So I think that's a good plan. 18th is good.
Why don't I got a thumbs up from Cord on the 18th. Are others available that day? Is that yes? Alexa, I see a hand. Matt's given, yeah. So it looks like the 18th is probably better than next week, as much as I'd like to get it, keep this ball rolling, Pat, without either of our lead professionals in that they're the point people for context with, yeah. All right, so on the 18th at 7:30 a.m., yes, confirmed. Awesome. And I assume that'll be virtual. We'll coordinate getting an agenda out, but essentially it'll be similar to what we did today, except the items that the professionals did not recommend to move forward. So if folks can review that ahead of time, that would be appreciated so we can come with questions. Yes, Matt Johnson.
I would just also request that the 3 items that Charlie identified earlier that were partially taken in this most recent round be put on the list as the remaining amount so that we could discuss whether the remaining amount might be eligible for taking.
Lorraine, did you note what numbers those were?
I'll give them to you again. The number 14, number 16, and number 25.
Okay.
And I would ask once again, if people have specific questions about any of these rejected items that they'd like clarification on, let me know. I'll pass them on to the committee and to our professionals, but they need to be specific questions, not opinions, or just so we can give them, the professionals, the information they need to come with to talk about those items.
These items should be, I think, viewed in the same way that all the other items are viewed, as something that's open for discussion and needs review. So I wouldn't single these out.
It will be
different.
Yep. But I think they will come with context from the professionals about why they were not recommended.
No, absolutely. Right. No, certainly.
Okay. Anything else? All right. I think that's it then for today, everyone. Oh my God, 9:56. Look at us. Yes. All right. I don't even think we need a vote to adjourn, right? We talked about this at the last meeting. Once we lose quorum, we're done. So
You're all done.
yeah, thank you, everyone. Seriously, this was time well spent, really important. And thank you to the professionals for being prepared.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone on the 18th. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.